Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Today is August 30th. Woke up to so much news. We got the UCL schedule dropping. We got Nico Jackson to Bayern Munich on loan. We got Chelsea playing Fulham. We got Bayern Munich playing Augsburg, which I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain, hasn't even happened yet. Recording this right now in between Chelsea and Augsburg, and we'll get you covered at the end with all the Bayern reactions and news as well. So why don't we jump right in? Please subscribe here to our YouTube channel, Always Bayern Chelsea, and yeah, leave us a like, leave us a comment. We're building the community here, all that good stuff. Appreciate it all from the bottom of our hearts. But let's start off with the UCL draw because we got a banger week one. Bayern Munich versus Chelsea Football Club. Right out the gate, coming out hot, and we're gonna do our best to stream it and keep you covered and just have a party with it all.
Thursday, August 28th, will go down as the greatest single day in the history of the Always Bayern Chelsea podcast thus far. Not even close. Maybe, a second close option would be Bayern winning the league or Chelsea winning the Club World Cup. But Thursday, just insane for the news to drop that Bayern and Chelsea will play each other. The two teams on this podcast butting heads, just insane. And then, of course, we find out this morning that they have the first match. And, the more I think about it, you could argue that it is kind of just the perfect storm of a scenario because it's just funny. It's hilarious that it ends up being the first match. It's so soon from now. I mean, we're talking 2.5 weeks away.
That's the crazy
And
thing.
yeah, there's no time to prepare. There's no time to even think about it. It kind of takes away all options of what we were thinking, and it's kind of just crazy. And that's kind of my main reaction to it, honestly.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's gonna be awesome. It's just gonna be awesome overall. At first, I was like, man, that's so soon. Like, I don't even know what to do. I might have to shoot an event that day, but I think it's not till the night. Like, we're going to our buddy's wedding over the weekend, and it's like, I'm flustered at first, and now I just sit down and think about it, and I'm like, you can't be flustered about a soccer match. Just have a good time with it, and it's so soon. It's gonna be awesome. I'm pumped. And yeah, we're gonna stream it. I don't care what it takes to stream it. I'm gonna figure out how to do it.
Yeah, no, first thing I'm doing Monday morning at work is taking a half day on that day, and I'm going to be so ready to go and fired up. And I mean, it's insane because, in your wildest dreams, you think Chelsea and Bayern can play, but realistically, you know, I guess I don't know for sure. Like, have they played more recent than that UCL final, right? Bayern like destroyed Chelsea, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Bayern's had some pretty good luck against Chelsea lately. Um, it's funny. I saw a stat recently about their record, and Bayern has a really good record against Chelsea lately. It was even like no losses, but I'm like, wait a minute. What about the UCL final? They were counting that as a draw because it went to penalties. But regardless, we don't have to talk about that today as a dark stain, arguably the darkest stain on Bayern Munich. Um, History maybe, but recent history for sure. So, yeah, it's just going to be awesome. Maybe a little bit of chance for redemption for Bayern from that 2012 UCL final in Munich, but it's just yeah, it's going to be pumped. We're going to do a really special stream for it, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go because it's so soon. But this will be arguably better for you as a viewer because you'll get to watch it with us.
Yeah, hand up, both hands up. I'd like to apologize to the community because, I did declare that if they get drawn, I would go. And, I will still briefly look into it just because,
Yeah, I
you
want to
never know.
see.
Maybe I see, I did a flight search this morning just to see, maybe something pops up where it says, oh, $500 round trip flight. And then,
Yeah.
something crazy could happen. But
Yeah, I
I
was
would
seeing like
argue,
700 something when I checked.
yeah, I would argue in terms of going for all the fans out there, it's probably worst case scenario to have it be this first week, just because, at this point. tough to take off work, wedding that weekend that we're both in, just tough.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I have an event at work, like I said, so I don't know. I'd have to like outsource another photographer or something.
right. So, I just want to say that I'm apologizing to the community and I'm admitting that I did say that, a month ago, whenever that was, that I would be there. I think I guaranteed that I'd be there. So, um, again, hand up on that one. But I will agree that a stream, again, you can argue is better. So, we'll definitely preview that one. We're gonna have a massive preview episode for that. As
Yeah.
I said, it's coming up so quick here, and really, over this international break, we'll probably just do the preview at the end of it and then
Agreed.
release it right before because we're gonna have to just put a lot of thought and effort into that. But yeah, the Bayern Chelsea connections right now to make a little what's the word I'm looking for here? I just can't think
Segue?
right now.
Segue.
Segue.
Yeah.
There it is. To make
Yeah.
a segue into the next piece of news.
And yes, more stuff is still happening. Since I recorded with Jim in the Nico Jackson transfer saga, Chelsea Football Club striker was heading to Bayern Munich on loan and was in Munich, shaking hands with everybody, getting ready to do his medical and everything. And Chelsea changed their mind. They say, nope, get back on the jet, turn around. And everything you're about to hear, I think I'll edit this in the beginning. Jim and I talked about before the U-turn jet request happened. So, yeah, my thoughts on that right now are that it's just extremely unprofessional and disrespectful by Chelsea to Nico Jackson, who they kicked out of the club, exiled from the squad, said, get out of here, we don't want you. And then he goes to Munich and is about to sign for his new team, at least on loan. And right when it's about to go down, they change their mind and ask him to come back and beg on their hands and knees for him to play for them once again. So that's how I feel about it. Pretty upset about Chelsea right now, but you can understand it from their perspective with Liam Delop's injury. I guess, again, I think it's disrespectful and unprofessional. I don't think this is how professional football clubs should act towards their players, with other clubs, whatever. So, yeah, we'll go back now and hear what Jim and I were talking about before the U-turn happened.
But we got Nico Jackson overnight. I mean, this happened overnight.
It did.
Confirmed on loan from Chelsea to Bayern. As of now, sounds like at least the fourth highest loan ever. So crazy stuff overnight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Bayern fan, I think you have to be happy about this. And I've been on here as not the biggest fan of Nico, definitely not the biggest fan of him as a finisher, as a target man number nine. But I think he's great at certain things. He's great at leading the press. He's very good at passing. He's good, pacey. He's good on the ball. And I think a player like Nico, especially in a thin squad like Bayern, especially with Musiala injured right now, could work super well in a two-striker system behind Kane, kind of false nine, pseudo 10 role. I think it's going to be great. I think I'm super interested in seeing Kane, Diaz, Nico, and Olise when Musiala is injured right now, all working together. There's those of you in the Bayern community, Bayern space in particular. I don't know if any real Bayern fans think this, who are just complaining about it because they complain about everything and think it's such a horrible deal for Bayern. Bayern got screwed, so expensive, yada yada yada. That's not my mindset about it right now. I'm looking forward to seeing what Nico can do on Bayern. So I get it's expensive, but like Bayern's kind of running out of options right now, and I mean, a loan without an obligation to buy. I mean, how pissed can you really be about that?
Yeah, as this international break is coming here, and we're going to need episodes. So, I'm deciding right now we're going to put out a Nico Jackson special episode where we're going to talk about his career at Chelsea and what he can bring to Bayern because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about in what he can bring to Bayern, and I think it could be special. But my initial thoughts from the Chelsea perspective are mostly disappointment, just in the entire situation. I've known for a while that Chelsea did want to sell him ultimately after getting João Pedro and Liam Delap, and it looked like it was headed toward a loan as there weren't any suitors willing to match the $80 million valuation, which I mostly agree with that valuation, especially in the striker market and how hot it was. Newcastle opted to go for Voltemade, who I'd argue Jackson's worth just as much for his Premier League experience. But nonetheless, from a Chelsea perspective, if you're going to go loan, it's the best team for me to Jackson for from me for Jackson to go to because it's Bayern and I get to watch him now and see how he does and root him on because except for that game against Chelsea where he will play, or at least get the chance to play, I have no, you know, qualms about rooting for him. So that's exciting. Yeah, the no obligation kind of sucks if you do want to sell him ultimately after this year. But I think if he does well at Bayern, you'll still get value next year anyway. So that's kind of my initial thought.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of rumors right now about the money attached to it. I've seen figures of like a 25% sell-on clause for Chelsea, which in my opinion would be good for Chelsea. But that's like farther down the line to think about. Right now in the immediate for me, it's just what can Nico do for Bayern? How is he going to fit in with the attack? And just overall excitement about getting a Premier League striker, a Premier League attacker who, again, I've had some qualms with him before as an out and out target man number nine, but that's not what Bayern needs to use him for right now. So I'm really excited about him, and I'm happy that Bayern did the deal. I think it's going to be a good deal for Bayern, especially, like worst case scenario, whatever, somebody gets injured, you then have somebody, and it's not like Bayern has to go dig into their academy. And yeah, I mentioned this on the Bayern View stream that I did the other day, but when you initially told me the 80 million was your valuation for Nico at the beginning of the summer, I was like, no shot. And then the striker, I don't know what you want to call it, Armageddon, the striker market basically exploded, and I was like, damn, I was so wrong. You were 100% right about that because definitely, I mean, if Valdemata is going to Newcastle for 90, you got Ekateke, you got Sesko, just this is just the Bundesliga strikers that I'm thinking about, but you have movement in the Premier League as well for like outrageous, outrageous fees. So 100%, I think Chelsea, yeah, I wouldn't have gone lower than that if I was Chelsea either. So here we are, Nico Jackson to
Yeah,
Bayern Munich.
and that's what kind of sucks is Chelsea somehow didn't sell him even though the market was so hot. Newcastle were offering up to 60 million for Strand Larson on Wolves. He scored like a handful of goals.
Yeah,
So
what
you're
the
telling me
hell?
Newcastle couldn't get Jackson for like probably 70, let's be honest. Chelsea probably would have taken 70. And then
Yeah.
instead they get, 80 or 90 for Voltemata, who, yeah, he's got potential. I think he's going to be a good player, but let's be honest, Nico is proven in the Premier League, and I think would have fit Newcastle's system really well. So that's just the weird thing. Clearly the market is there for Jackson because the loan value that Bayern are paying shows you that his value buying him permanently would have been there too. Because if you're paying 15 million at least for a loan just for 1 year, extrapolate that over at least 5 years, and we're talking 75 million right there. So I don't know. It's very interesting. The only other thing I'm going to add right now from a Chelsea perspective, and we'll get into the Chelsea match eventually here, but Liam Delap goes down, pulls his hammy, and we'll see. We're probably not going to know for a few days here how serious it is, but you never, never like seeing that from anybody. I mean, you just never know with a hamstring when you're on a full sprint and you pull up the way he did. And he's a young guy, so you couldn't tell for sure when you're a young guy and you've never pulled a hamstring. I think you just don't know how serious it is. So we'll see. That almost makes me it's just more interesting because it could be way worse or not as bad because he's so young.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he's probably out. We have a break now, so I would guess they're gonna for sure, even if it's a minor one, you're probably holding him out for at least a few weeks just to be safe. Um, but yeah, I posted a reaction about canceling the Nico loan, and part of me is like serious because if it ends up being serious, you're gonna look back at this potentially as a massive, massive mistake giving Nico to Bayern.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, yeah, hamstring injuries are one of the strangest, most unpredictable injuries in terms of length. Like he literally could be out for 2 weeks, or he literally could be out for 6 months. Like you really just don't know with those hamstrings. And it can be something that heals up and he never feels ever again in his life, or it can be something that lingers on throughout an entire season. Um, like you're looking back, that's what Kane was dealing with last year and 2 years ago, I believe, against Real Madrid in the Champions League. And it's like you could tell he was visibly slower. And Kane's not a speedster by any means, but he was visibly slower just from dealing with lingering hamstring issues. So, I'm on record. I've been of the mindset of, especially early in the season, being conservative with these types of things. I think Bayern has rushed guys back from injury multiple times, and I've stated that before. So if I'm Chelsea, especially you have João Pedro, I would look to keep Delop out really until he's truly good to go, and you're not going to have any lingering issues later in the year. But yeah, that would be a time certainly when you would want Jackson, and I think there's stuff that Chelsea can do to mix around the attack where they'll have enough guys, maybe not the ideal scenario right now, certainly not the ideal scenario right now, but I also feel like I need to know what's going on with Cole Palmer. I don't know if Chelsea hasn't been super out front about it, but I personally haven't um, like seen much clarity around his situation.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up as we move now into talking more about Chelsea here because Palmer and his injury will be the number one piece going into this international break and talking about this Chelsea attack, followed by Delap as the number two most important piece of news because if they're both out for any extended period of time, this Chelsea attack, quite honestly, goes from very good and one of the best in the world to one of the top attacks, but more your top half um, in terms of good attacks out there because they got a lot of talent still, but the options are just very much more limited, especially when you consider the bench. And what we've seen from Chelsea so far this year in the Premier League is that they've done nothing in open play essentially. A little bit against West Ham, but I think the Hammers are just a putrid team. Their goals right now are from set pieces. Today we saw it again, a corner and a penalty. So without Palmer and some of these other guys, you missed out on Xavi Simmons. So, and you're bringing in Garnacho. Chelsea are weak in attack right now. That's the point.
Yeah, it's certainly Chelsea is thin on depth at the moment with all these injuries, and you can say hopefully these injuries are happening early in the year and we're going to be healthy come crunch time. That's kind of what I'm saying about Bayern. That's what I'm hoping about Bayern. So maybe apply that logic to Chelsea, but truly you never know. And a nice 2-0 win against Fulham today for sure. A lot of kind of craziness happening in this match, but yeah, I mean, certainly it's going to be tougher in my mind against certain Premier League teams who kind of play compact and maybe play a lower block to really score a ton from open play, but you would hope to see some of your ballers doing a little bit better.
Yeah, I think you have to decide tactically if Palmer's out, and I don't want to talk too much about Palmer being out because who knows? He could just be back right after the break. But I think there's things Enzo Maresca can do to change things up and try to be more fast-paced, not necessarily counterattack based, because I still think in his DNA and the team you want to control the game and dominate possession. But the type of players that you have that are going to have to come in if guys are out, Gittins, Garnacho, Neto, these are all transition players that do really well on the break. So you would have to consider that. Yeah, but we'll see. That's just how the year has started. Ultimately, all I can say right now with these first three Premier League games, is you got 7 freaking points and you have not even come close to reaching your potential. And as a Chelsea fan, I could not be more thrilled with that. As I said in my reaction immediately after this Fulham match, after winning 2-0, that's championship. That's championship.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what champions do.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm the farthest person from a guy who is of the mindset that a win is a win. You know, you hear people say that a lot. I'm usually not of that mindset, but today for Chelsea, I certainly am. I just think it was a crazy match with all that happened. Delop gets injured. Your plans kind of go out the window, and obviously other injuries that we talked about. The Nico news. I feel like there's just a lot UCL, a lot going on right now, and for Chelsea
Nacho
to
cheese. Nacho cheese. Sorry.
exactly Nacho Cheese, Garnacho, Javi Simon's going to Spurs. Like it's just crazy right now. I mean, I literally woke up like in a flurry today. It was insane. And again, I'm Bayern, which again, a lot of Bayern news too, but um yeah, so I think like today, what you got to do is just take the win and move on and kind of reassess things after the break. Let the whirlwind calm down a little bit. You beat a solid Fulham side 2-0, and you know you didn't lose your head when penalties happened. Penalties didn't happen, and you just kind of stuck to it. Guys got injured, you stuck to it, and you got the win. So that's the most important thing. 3 points. You take that and you run today.
Yeah, totally agree. And we saw Enzo Maresca go with the same lineup that he had against West Ham. I think clearly they're trying to be really careful with Reece James. You know, he is your captain, so it's not like he's being benched. You know, I don't think he'd be captain at this point. I think with the Club World Cup and the amount of matches guys have played, and now we're seeing Chelsea get hurt, Bayern get hurt, you know, a lot of these teams get hurt that have played in the Club World Cup. I think Reece is a choice where you're just going to say he's not playing a ton to start the year, give him more of a break. And I think that's fair, especially we've seen, you know, Gusto be all right since the end of the Club World Cup. So you went with the same lineup. I was fine with that. But unfortunately, this first half was one of the worst first halves that I've seen Chelsea play in the last year. We're seeing a lot of comparisons to the first half against Real Betis. No energy, letting Fulham do whatever they want. Fulham were the more physical team. You know, neither team had like amazing chances necessarily, but Chelsea were so bad at the start. I mean, I know you didn't watch that first half live, but you did not need to because it really was putrid. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like it was a really bad first half.
Yeah, no, I believe you. And I agree with James. I think it's like extra tough with James because obviously you never want to see anybody get injured. You never want to see your attackers get injured or whatever. But Chelsea does have depth in that attacking area in the midfield. If James goes down, you got Gusto, but you got Gusto, if you know what I
Yep.
mean. So that's going to be tough. Also, just with the leadership that James brings, and when he's on the pitch, again, I've talked about this enough, so I'm not going to harp on it, but I just think what James brings you when he's on the pitch in terms of attitude, in terms of leadership, is completely irreplaceable, not to mention that they're thin at the right back position, anyways. So I'm okay with that kind of mindset, easing him into things this season. But yeah, I guess I'm glad I missed that first half live because again, I just saw the highlights and it didn't look like much, and the things that did happen were not super fun to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, you know, the things I'll note that I have in my notes here on the first half, I thought when Delop was in, he looked physical, and I like a striker that is physical and plays that style direct. I thought Chelsea pressed all right to start. Enzo was getting pretty high up. Fulham were pressing pretty solid as well. Chelsea were passing along a lot, and that happened most of the day. Sanchez again with really poor distribution all day. I'm not sure if that's the plan for Maresca, more long passing. You know, we saw it in the Club World Cup against PSG. That was completely different though because of the way PSG play.
Agreed.
This is different. Sanchez at times wasn't even really getting pressed, and seem to be kind of panicking. And a lot of those long passes aren't being connected on. I don't know. That's weird. I don't know if you noticed that in the second half, if it was still going on. I don't really recall, but it's weird to me.
Yeah, a little bit. And certainly against a team that's playing compact, against a team that's playing any sort of a block, that's not really going to work that well. I feel like the long passes are great for teams that press, great against a team like Bayern. So maybe they're just prepping for the Champions League meetup here in a few weeks. But yeah, the idea in my mind with those kind of passes are you want to go over top of the guys that are pressing and just start a break really quick. And that's not going to happen when the whole team is slouched back. So, not sure what the idea is there. I do recall seeing that, at least against Palace, that Sanchez was doing that as well, and it wasn't working. So not sure what the mindset is there at all, to be honest.
Yeah, just weird. And we see in the 21st minute devastation for Chelsea, allowing a goal. Devastation at first. Really poor defending, quick counterattack, unbelievable skill level by Fulham to get off this shot. This young guy, 18-year-old King, um, scores a goal, and Fulham are just in it. They were the better team. They deserved that goal, to be honest. And then VAR get involved. It was Muniz, I believe, that had the skill play where he steps on Chalobah. It's not a challenge by him because he has the ball, but he does a little spin with the ball, steps on Chalobah. VAR steps in, takes Rob Jones to the review booth, and he decides that he's taking the goal away because there's a foul in the buildup. Now, my immediate thought is Fulham kind of got screwed here. And it was a really good counterattack. In my opinion, like a lot of these plays just aren't necessarily a foul when it's kind of middle of the field and it's not a challenge. Again, it's a skill play. At the same time, you see this a lot, and I know what you'll bring up here. I'll let you bring up that side because guys stepping on each other, you just see it all the time. It can be anywhere from a red to no foul. So I also see why you call it a foul. I really do see why you call it a foul. And truly, 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 on the internet, it's mostly split. And I'll let you talk, and then I'm going to rip into the TV, guys.
At this point, I try to use my discretion, and it's the same thing for me as the NFL with a catch or not a catch. I swear I see something one week and it's a catch. I see the same thing the next week and it's not a catch. That's how I feel about these types of instances. Like you said, a guy steps on somebody's foot. Sometimes it's no call, sometimes it's a red card. So I'll bring up, as I always do, because I love bringing it up, the João Palhinha red card against Bochum last year, which lost Bayern Munich a precious Bundesliga match. Didn't think that was a red card, but it was called. So here we are with a goal being essentially overruled by VAR because of a foul previously in the play. My general feeling on this type of thing is I don't like VAR going in and overturning a play that's so subjective to me. If it's that subjective, my mindset is just leave it as what was called originally. Don't go in and overrule it. But again, to me, it's like I see this and I feel like I can't, in good faith, make a decision because I've seen so many different calls on this exact same thing that it's like it's just up to the ref at this point. It's just up to VAR.
So the problem with it is that VAR is supposed to step in when there's a clear and obvious mistake.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah, to me, this is really not a clear and obvious mistake. Again, when it's 50-50, that's not clear and obvious. So you really shouldn't step in. Why I like VAR in some other instances, the handball on Fulham for a pen. That's a clear and obvious mistake. I think Rob Jones didn't call it live because he knew VAR would step in. We can debate that another day whether refs should do that. But that was clear and obvious. His arm is way high, making his body bigger. 10 to Chelsea. That's the difference, though, in those two things, and why VAR is going to be so iffy for a lot of people. And then I just got to add about the guys on TV. I heard this was the case in TNT in England, USA Network as well. They literally said, one of the Robbies said, it is the most egregious call he's seen in the history of football. The history of football. Are you fucking kidding me? Maybe it was a bad call, fine. But what are we talking about in the third week of the Premier League season? This isn't like a title match. Are you serious? They were crying basically as if this King player on Fulham not scoring this goal was such a tragedy because it was such a good story. Like he was some charity case that somehow got into this game and scores the greatest goal of all time and now it's disallowed. Come on, guys. Like show your Chelsea bias any other time, but that was wild to me.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I I think it's completely irresponsible for professional announcers to talk like that. That's the type of shit me and you will be texting back and forth. At least me, when I'm watching a Bayern game and I'm firing off 50 tweets in a minute or 50 tweets, 50 texts to you in a minute. That's the type of thing that I'll be saying when I'm talking to you. I'm in the moment. I'm letting myself get engulfed by the emotions of being a fan and watching the match. That's not what you say when you're broadcasting to millions of people, like irresponsible in my mind when you have that kind of a platform. Again, me and you, like, I don't mind. I never will mind punching up in my life. I'll punch up all day long. But the minute you have that kind of a platform and people are like looking at you for unbiased analysis and that's the type of thing you're saying, like, get real.
Yeah, totally. And it's unfortunate. Either way, all I can say is it's an unfortunate situation, but I'm certainly not going to feel bad about the way Chelsea end the half. I literally screamed in joy in my apartment because ninth minute of extra time in the first half because there was so much stoppage. Enzo corner finds João Pedro's head. They get the goal. Enzo ends up getting a pen early in the second half. Hilarious stuff. Hilarious stuff. Because if you were to watch the first half, and probably in the second half too, Enzo Fernandez, the worst player on the pitch by a mile. The guy is unfit, out of shape, slowest player I've seen in the Premier League so far to start the year, does absolutely nothing, literally screwed Chelsea out of two counterattacks because he doesn't know how to touch the ball. He literally will lose the ball, and it's crazy, and somehow ends up with an assist and a goal. I mean, is that not the most Mo Salah thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, oh man. I'll just say that's crazy work from the captain, but he gets it done at the end of the day. He gets it done.
And it's crazy, and good for Enzo. I can say that because I do really love Enzo, and he gets a lot of shit, rightfully so, for what I just said. But I love Enzo, and I know what he provides, and he's my vice captain. But really not much else to say because this is a gritty win for Chelsea. The other things I'll add is Chelsea did look a lot better in the second half. So you saw a better half. They controlled really well. Fulham essentially had no chances except for that Jimenez header kind of toward the end that he couldn't quite get on top of. But overall, Esteval was the best attacker for Chelsea today. Successful on his dribbles, had a couple chances, had a shot on goal. He is so exciting, and every time he touches the ball, again, I'm out of my seat, and I think he is just going to be so special for this team.
Yeah, I'll say from what I saw, I including the first half highlights, I really liked what I saw from João Pedro. Thought he was great. I liked Esteval, like you said. Um, Chalobah, I thought was great. I thought Chelsea's defense, from what I saw, again was overall solid. Mark was good. I thought Tosin was good. But yeah, especially Chalobah and Gusto. While I don't think he offers as much as you want him to in the role that Enzo Maresca plays him as, I thought he was solid enough today.
Yeah, I agree. And me talking about Esteban, I'm not trying to minimize João Pedro because ultimately he gets the goal and probably was the best attacker in terms of results. I just get so excited about Esteban. Pedro did have a phenomenal day. His ball control for a guy his size is undeniable. And, he's probably going to have to be striker here for Chelsea, but him in the 10 role has worked out beautifully. And I think he's super special as kind of that second striker a lot of times. And yes, the defenders ended up being great on the day after the first 20 minutes. So for 70 minutes, a top defense, Chalaba leading the way with his passing, defending. Caicedo, best CDM in the world, continues to be. If you're not calling him the best CDM in the world, you don't know football. 11 tackles, I believe I saw he had on the day, more than Fulham as a team combined.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't notice that as just kind of like loosely watching, catching the second half. So glad you brought that up. I will never shy away from an opportunity to praise Caicedo. And Estevao is honestly, I think anybody, like I'm more of a neutral. Obviously, I watch Chelsea every week, but Estevao is so exciting to watch. I'll throw that in there as somebody who isn't bleeding blue. Estevao is so exciting to watch every week.
Well, we'll get you to bleed blue yet, um, except for when they play Bayern.
Maybe after the 17th, yeah.
But nonetheless, again, I will say this victory is champion shit for Chelsea. It really is. So happy to have 7 points at this point. Heading into the international break, it's just an exciting time. Couldn't be happier for the win. There's some other things I'm not happy about, but in this moment, I'm happy.
All right, everybody, I'm hopping back in here to give you my breakdown of the Bayern Munich match, 3-2 win over Augsburg. Chaotic match, absolutely insane, chaotic match. If this day couldn't get any crazier, it sure did with this match. Again, final score 3-2. Bayern Munich end up beating Augsburg after going up 3-0 and then completely collapsing. Similar to the Pokal match where they gave up 2 goals after going up 2 goals in that one. And it's concerning, definitely, at this point, but a win will take a win at this point. And that's what they got, 3 points away in Augsburg. I really rate Sandro Wagner as a manager, always have, Augsburg's manager. Think he will be one of the greats one day. So let's jump into it. Vincent Kompany's lineup was exactly as expected, same as what we saw against Leipzig. You got Manuel Neuer in between the sticks, Josip Stanisic at left back, Ta and Upamecano at the center back position, and Konrad Laimer at right back. Kompany did what he always does, is he gave Stanisic and Laimer free range as the outside backs to really bomb up the pitch, get up into play, be aggressive, and that works sometimes, and then it also leaves you susceptible to quick lapses and counters sometimes. So that was clearly Leipzig's plan. They wanted to be a little bit more Leipzig. That was clearly Augsburg's plan. They wanted to be a little bit more compact, and Finn Dahmen, their keeper especially, was playing a ton of long balls, just trying to break that Bayern Munich high line, trying to break that press. And at times it worked, at times it didn't. So really weird match. To talk about the defense, I guess I'll just start with Neuer really quick. Think he did fine. Could have maybe done a little bit more on those goals, but the goals weren't his fault. The defense kind of left him out to dry and really just collapsed, lost their shape, everything at the end. So not much Neuer could have done on those goals, in my opinion. Maybe could have been a little bit better with his attempts at saving them, but really not his fault. And then the defense, I felt like, was really solid until they weren't. And when they weren't, it was a complete collapse. Like, again, no shape, just loss of control completely. At one point, they slumped back into a block because they couldn't figure out what to do. So it was just crazy for about 20 to 30 minutes there in the second half. Things looked really, really rough. But luckily, the final score is a win for Bayern Munich. Onto the midfield now. You had Leon Goretzka and Joshua Kimmich. I thought they were both fine. Again, they were good when the whole team was good, and then bad when the whole team was bad. So tough to really judge them. I thought both of them probably weren't at their best. But again, Kimmich's best is in the stratosphere. So to say Kimmich isn't at his best doesn't mean he necessarily had a bad game. Goretzka was honestly playing a little bit more of a defensive role in this game at times, where I kind of like to see Kimmich take on that role and then Goretzka kind of make crashing runs and things like that. So it was a little bit odd to see Goretzka play more defensively. Not his best match in my mind, wasn't horrible, but we'll talk about it. Pavlovic comes on and definitely didn't do any better than Goretzka. So I can see why Company is sticking with him in this starting lineup right now, and we'll just have to see if Pavlovic can fully heal. He's still wearing that mask, so I can't imagine that's easy to play in. The attacking setup was Luis Diaz on the left wing, Serge Gnabry at the 10, Michael Olise at the right wing, Harry Kane at the 9. All the attackers created tons and tons of chances all match long. The problem was they only finished 3 of them. I'm looking at 7 or 8 probably big chances, maybe more. And a lot of those are literal one-on-ones with the keeper that Olise or Diaz, those were the 2 that really missed the most. Diaz missed the most, and then Olise second most, were just not good shots, really. Like, they did everything right to get into the position to have a clear shot on goal and then just flubbed it up. So it's tough. It's like it's early in the season. Can you chalk that up to whatever? Don't worry about it. They're going to fall one day, shaking off the rust. Or do you get concerned and say, hey, this is the same old Bayern we saw last year, dominating for most of the match, but just not very much to show for it? I don't know. Kane and Serge, I thought, were the 2 best attackers for sure on the day. Kane is the most well-rounded player in the world, no doubt in my mind. The man was defending his ass off today. He created 3 big chances himself, was doing everything. Got 2 assists, and it's a shame he didn't get a goal himself because he deserved one, but he was just doing so much. Like I said, 2 assists, created 3 big chances. The guy was everywhere at once, defending when the whole team lost their wits. He was back there on the back line defending. So hats off to Harry Kane for a great game overall. Serge Gnabry as well, I thought, had a really good game. Serge scored the opening goal. I don't think he got an assist in there, but was just involved in all of the build-up play and the creation and all that stuff. So Serge was there, providing, creating, and even scoring a goal himself in this one. But let's break down the match now, because right when things start off, 20 seconds into the match, super similar to what happened against Vehan Wiesbaden in the DFB Pokal. I think that one was 14 seconds in. This one was about 20 seconds in. Luis Diaz has a golden opportunity. Michael Olise burns someone and slots the ball right to Diaz to put into the net. I don't know if Diaz heard a whistle. I don't know if he just thought he was off, but instead of just slotting that ball into the back of the net, he kind of clears it with the outside of his foot. It was a strange situation. I believe he thought he was off, because I don't know what the reasoning was for his decision making there. But that's how the game starts off, and then not too far after that, maybe a few more minutes into the match, 5-10 minutes in or something, Olise has a really good chance, but just narrowly misses it. Finn Dahmen, the keeper on Augsburg, one of their better players on the day and just overall, had a mistake, and Olise capitalizes off of the mistake but can't actually score the goal. So yeah, that's kind of how things start. Again, Sandro Wagner, Augsburg's coach, I think employs the perfect game plan against Bayern Munich. Start off compact, start off in a low block, and just search for those long balls, search for those counterattacks. Bayern is so susceptible to counterattacks, and that's something the Company, I think, needs to figure out. For as much as I like what Company has done, he has not been good against teams in a low block, not been good against teams that counterattack. And I know when you have a team like Bayern, it's hard to be good against a team in a low block. I get it. That's the point of a low block, to stop and snuff out all scoring threats. But you can't be so susceptible to one long ball breaking down your entire defense if you're Bayern Munich. You just can't. Because while this game ended up in a win 3-2, which I'm very happy about, it's just not going to happen against Chelsea, against Arsenal, against PSG in the Champions League. If you miss 7 big chances and your whole defense breaks down from one pass, those types of teams are going to make you pay. And like I said, I'm really happy Bayern got the win today. Augsburg almost made us pay. I mean, they did twice, and they almost clawed their way back from being down 0-3. 28th minute is when we saw that first goal by Serge Gnabry, assisted by Harry Kane. Just a beautifully scrumptious, tasty ball by Kane, lofted into Serge Gnabry. You have Serge Gnabry and Konrad Laimer streaking in right there, so if the ball doesn't connect with Gnabry's head, it's gonna connect with Laimer's. And it was just a beautiful bit of play by Kane to take his time to see that run. I saw Serge put his hand up. Serge was behind all the defense and kind of put his hand up, so I'm sure Kane caught that and then decided to just loft it in there. And Serge was there. Beautiful header by Serge. Lately, Serge Gnabry has been playing great. He's been offering something that he previously wasn't at that 10 spot. Serge is always going to be a good finisher. He's always going to be a good scorer. I think other parts of his game have fallen off. I think he's maybe lost a step, but he's always going to provide that lethal scoring, and that's what he did here. So shout out to Serge just for his performance on the day, really getting that first goal there. Shortly after that, you see Michael Olise get tackled inexplicably in the box, going for a shot, beat the defense, and just gets American football tackled, like two-handed, shoved to the ground, grabbed and thrown to the ground as he's about to shoot and score, because let's be honest, Olise scoring that. No penalty there. I'm not sure why. It was a really bizarre no call in my instance. I'm not sure if it was even looked at, but really strange. Just really, really strange. So the game continues from there. Augsburg kind of starts to lose control. Like I said, they make that American football tackle on Olise in the box. They get a yellow card shortly after, giving Bayern a free kick in a great area. They didn't capitalize, but at this point, this is Augsburg's weakest point in the match, in my opinion. And then the 45th minute +4, right before halftime, Luis Diaz gets his goal, which is great. Just a really nice assist from Konrad Laimer, kind of running down that right-hand side, and slides it over to Diaz, who I couldn't tell if he finished with the outside of his foot or like almost with his studs, but a nice finish by Diaz, and was in the right place at the right time. Diaz was, again, missed a ton of chances today, but was a menace. He was creating. So he was in the middle of the pitch at this point. Gnabry, Kane, Diaz, Olise, they all have so much freedom and fluidity in this Vincent Kompany system. You see oftentimes Harry Kane dropping so deep and facilitating the play. Like, Kane is almost playing like a 10, like a point guard, and Gnabry, Diaz, Olise, and then you add the fullbacks, Laimer and Stanisic, bombing up there too. They're all so far forward, and Kane is like seeing the pitch with this incredible vision that he has, and is able to just find these guys and pick these guys out. So really nice stuff in that first half to go up 2-0. Again, could have been a little bit more, certainly, but you're feeling good at that point. If you're a Bayern Munich fan, you're feeling really good going into halftime, up 2-0. And then you're feeling even better right after half. 48th minute, Michael Olise gets his goal. A really nice assist again by Kane, just point guarding things, finding Olise there to get him the ball. And Olise does a number of nice jukes and jabs and slow ups and pump fakes, and almost like I'm going crazy with the basketball analogies. I'm calling Kane a point guard, and Olise is like ducking and diving and pump faking, but he ends up firing off a shot with his weaker right foot, I do believe, and it was honestly not a great shot. Finn Dahmen, Augsburg's keeper, did not do a great job at saving this one, and also I think it was a mistake by him on a long ball attempt that even started this entire play, if I'm remembering correctly. But Olise gets the goal. Not a super strong shot, but good enough, and he gets the goal, and there you go. Bayern's up 3-0. We're packing it in. Everybody's happy. That's got to be game. There's no way an Augsburg team who does not have offensive firepower can claw their way back into this one, right? There's no possible way. Little did we know, in the 53rd minute then, some sloppy play in the box, some sloppy defending by Bayern Munich, not clearing balls that they really should, allows Augsburg to get the ball off of a little bit of ping-ponging and slot one home. So it's 1-3 at that point. you're still not super nervous, but you don't like to see sloppy defending like that. And then after that, Bayern kind of maintains control for a little bit, and Diaz gets more shots, but more misses, can't make them. Again, good creation, but just can't make the shots. Olise has a miss or two in there, frustratingly from Olise, uncharacteristic of Michael Olise, but he does. And then, 70th minute, Company goes to his bench for some subs. Boué and Pavlovic come on, Goretzka and Leimer come off. And this is right around where things really start to fall apart for Bayern Munich. Maybe a little bit before that, things start to fall apart. But just not great for Bayern at this point, because they really collapse. And I don't know if it was the crowd in Augsburg, if it was fatigue, if it was short preparation, whatever number of excuses you want to give, you shouldn't fall apart like Bayern did in this one. But they did, and in the 76th minute, we saw the second goal from Augsburg. Boué could have done better on this one, just poor positioning. Again, I don't want to blame Sacha Boué or these subs or whatever, but Bayern just lost their entire defensive shape. Communication was poor. After this, they panicked. They let Augsburg have possession and just slouched into a box to try to figure things out, but I guess a block is what I meant to say, to try to figure it out, but nothing really worked for a while, and Augsburg was running rampant. They were getting multiple corners. It felt like a third Augsburg goal was coming. It really felt like an equalizer was coming. Bayern eventually start to gain control again, but they're still missing their big chances. There's multiple more big chances missed here by Diaz. I think maybe another one by Olise too. It was just weird. Bayern's defense was collapsing and their offense was still pushing, but just couldn't finish. It was bizarre. It was truly bizarre. We see in the 86th minute then Serge Gnabry comes off, Rafa Guerreiro comes on. I was panicking for a second because I thought Guerreiro was going to slide into that already collapsing back line, and I thought that was going to be a kiss of death. But he ended up playing the 10, again, coming on for Serge Gnabry. So I don't know if Serge just is working up his fitness or what, but an unnecessary sub. I don't think Guerreiro's going to provide you that spark in a match like this, and he didn't, but was not detrimental to the team either. So we get into stoppage time here, 7 minutes of stoppage time, which is already too much, way too much for what it should have been 4 or 5. They give him 7. We're into stoppage time, and there's a head-to-head injury. Sacha Boué and an Augsburg player both go up for the ball and bang heads, and the Augsburg player gets the worst of it, is down for a number of minutes, and then eventually play carries on, and Bayern squeaks out the win after the ref lets them play for 13 minutes of extra time, which is bizarre, but hey, Bayern sneaks out 3 points, sneaks out a 3-2 win in this one, victorious. So you take it and run into the international break if you're Bayern Munich. But just a bizarre game, and I'm sure Company is going to catch some flack, as he always does, for not playing the youngsters. I can see it on one hand, but again, I don't know if this is the right game for that. I don't really agree with his subs in this one, so I'm not going to say Company's always right, but I don't know if this was the game to introduce some young blood in. It was just a weird game, and even these veterans were unable to play defense. So really weird, really strange, really dominant for a while until it wasn't, and then it was really bad. So that's how I see the game for Bayern. I'm happy to get the win. I want to call out one thing, though. This was Harry Kane's 100th game for Bayern Munich, the most complete player in the world, the best striker in the world. Harry Kane has 100 games for Bayern, 91 goals, and 28 assists, which is unreal. I don't know if you realize how unbelievable those numbers are. You look at those numbers and you think there's a typo. That's how insane Harry Kane's production has been since he got to Bayern Munich. And again, defended his ass off today. Facilitated, pulled the strings, orchestrated the offense today. There's not enough good things you can say about Kane. So you know what? I'm going to give him the man of the match. It's between Kane and Serge. For me, I said Serge Gnabry is the man of the match when I was talking to the Bayern view after the match, but the more I think about it, the more I'm going to give this one to Kane. But I will give Serge the Robin of the match because I thought he did great as well. I'm going to give Olise the underrated player of the match, but it was just tough. I mean, I think it's probably Olise or Kimmich, even though I don't think it was Olise's best match. Same thing that I said about Kimmich earlier in this episode, though. Olise's not best match is still pretty good. So there. Defender, I'm going to give it to everybody and nobody because they were all good and then they were all bad. So there. That's how I feel about that one. Thank you for checking out this episode. It's been a crazy, crazy day. Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Always Bayern Chelsea, for full coverage of all the Nico Jackson drama, of all the Champions League drama. The Champions League match, Bayern versus Chelsea, already coming up in a couple of weeks here. We're going to stream it live for you. And Jim will give you all the Chelsea coverage you need in these coming days. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And Mia San Mia.